Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm Erin Schwartz, and I am one of the board members here with Parkview Services, and I have the pleasure of welcoming everybody here today. So thank you very much for being here. I've had the honor of being on the board for about 7.5 years now. And I work alongside a really wonderful board with some new members and some long-standing members. So it's really on behalf of the board that I'm welcoming everybody here. And I wanted to just start by recognizing our board members and see if they would stand up, and if you don't mind, giving them a round of applause. All my board member friends. Come on, you can, I know it's tight quarters, raise your hands, whatever you, okay. Very good. They all give so much heart, and it's such a great partnership. And, I thought that I would tell you how I came to Parkview. I came to know Parkview now about 25 years ago. It was my work study when I started graduate school in Seattle. I moved to Seattle for my Master of Social Work degree, and I was a counselor on the floor at Parkview Group Homes, which is in the Capitol Hill area. And I was a counselor alongside Mark Cote, who is now our wise and wonderful executive director. So let's give Mark a round of applause. And, you know, when I came to Seattle, I didn't know anyone, and Parkview became like an extended family for me, and it became like a second home for me. And so it's really been great having the chance to give back and stay connected and be on the board. As you're going to hear today, Parkview's mission is to support people living with disabilities all across the state to find safe and affordable homes. So with that in mind, I thought that I would take a page out of my daughter's book. My daughter, a few years ago, had a coming-of-age ceremony, and she had the chance to give a speech, and the speech was on the theme of home. And she did an exercise where she asked all of the people who were gathered there to please close their eyes and picture what home means to them. And so, if you don't mind, I'm just going to ask us all to take a minute, close your eyes, and just think, what does home mean to you? Great. Thank you. You can open your eyes now. This morning, together with all of you, Parkview is celebrating another year of service, working diligently to create housing solutions for the 37,000 people in the state that have unmet needs around affordable and safe homes. And so I just want us to think that that's 37,000 people in need of homes, just like the ones we were all picturing a few minutes ago, right? And so we're all here together because we all care about this mission, and because we have optimism about how we can try to change things. One thing I wanted to do is recognize just how extremely proud we all are of the staff and the team at Parkview Services, beyond just the group home, but they are the friends who listen to the community, who hear stories, who find solutions. I'm getting goosebumps. But so I just wanted to give them a round of applause for all the staff. So I'm not going to take longer today. I just wanted to thank you all for being here, for your presence, for any financial support that you're willing to give to the cause, to say that I hope we can stay connected after this one moment in time. And I also wanted to thank the sisters, because this restaurant is like another home, and they really opened their home to us for this special meal. So Thank you all for being here. I have the opportunity and the honor of welcoming Mark Cote. He is very humble, very kind, very dedicated, and very wise and knowledgeable. So, Mark, please come up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin, and thanks to everyone for being here. For the very few of you who I haven't personally met, I am Mark Cody, the director. I'm sorry, and I use he, him pronouns. I look forward to the brunch every year, and it's not just because I like the pastries that Sisters bakes for us. It's because it's one of the few times I get to see so many of our Parkview family members in one place at one time. After the pandemic, that means a lot more to me. To all of us, and I'd like to just pause for a moment so everyone can take a moment and look around the room and see the people responsible for our success. I want to recognize a housing champion that we have in the room here, Representative Frank Chopp of the He's in the 43rd district, or represents the 43rd district, where Parkview has 2 rental homes and rents to 8 people, extremely low-income people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Okay, let us give a quick round of applause to all the employees, volunteers, board members, donors, and family members who have done so much. It is, yep. Thank you. It's true what Erin said about our public funding growth, but that's not all that's grown. Our staff has grown. It's almost doubled in a little over a year. The number of available housing units has grown, and we expect to have almost 218 available units by the end of this year. Our community engagement program has grown. We have added Vibrant Palette, and Camp Parkview was back in full force this summer. Those 2 programs have a lot to do with the incredible efforts of Zach St. John, who also did so much work putting this brunch together. Thanks, Zach. But the growth is not enough. In fact, it's not even close to enough. That the need is so high in Washington State that we have to keep going. With the growth, that growth goal in mind, I want to share just 3 of our priorities for the coming year. First is to develop 36 units of affordable IDD housing, and 12 of those units will be in Spokane County. Eastern Washington is a new territory for us, and it's so exciting that we will finally be able to say that we are reaching adults with IDDs on both sides of the mountains. We want to redevelop the Capitol Hill group home. It's the residents are aging, and the house is 3 stories, and it's not suitable really for them as they age. Yeah, we want to redevelop it. The group home is where Parkview started in 1967. Safety and stability are 2 of our core principles, and we'll be working the next year to keep those 6 residents in safe, stable environments into the future. Third, we want to develop a limited equity co-op model of home ownership and house 3 adults with IDDs. I love this initiative. I've been wanting to do it for since 2006. While Parkview is not the biggest affordable housing provider, in Washington, we are flexible, creative, and persistent. This program epitomizes the unique position Parkview is in. Thanks to the tireless efforts of our staff and their creativity, we are going to jump into the co-op model and serve some individuals who might otherwise get left behind. And none of us could do any of this work we do without the support of our incredible Parkview Services Board of Directors, who we just honored. Sorry. Thank you to the board. Let's see. Yeah. And now I'd like to pass the mic to Emma Byfield.
Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Aaron, and thank all of you for being here this morning. I was thinking a great way to begin would be to raise our coffee, our orange juice, our espresso, if there's anything left, and just turn to the person next to you and say, "Good morning, thank you for being here." Like Mark said, my name is Emma J. Byfield. I use she, her pronouns, and I am just thrilled and honored to be a part of this marvelous event and this heartfelt, inspiring community that is gathered here today. What a wonderful group of individuals and staff and board, like we've mentioned. I am so excited to learn more about Parkside Services. Parkview Services. Oh my goodness, I hope that doesn't happen again. But what a beautiful group of families we have here, and I'm really looking forward to learning more. So let's get to it with our third speaker of the day. Stacy Dym has over 30 years of experience working in the disability rights field. She has previously served as the executive director of the ARC of King County and currently serves as executive director of the ARC of Washington State. As a valued Parkview Services partner, the ARC of Washington State promotes and protects the human and civil rights of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And more importantly, Stacy is a sibling to Colleen and a longtime friend of Parkview Services. Please welcome Stacy Dym to the stage.
That's a big step right there. I think this is the first gala-like event I've been to since 2019. And I'm sure a lot of you are in that same situation. It's just really exciting to see all the energy here, all the energy we feel being together, and that we create when we come together and talk about these really important issues. I can't imagine a better organization or a better human to risk getting COVID over. And so I'm really glad that I'm here to talk about Parkview Services and Mark Cody. And I wish I was better at roasting people, but it's not in my nature. Mark is also one of the kindest, smartest, and most generous people I know and work with. And my only goal really would be to make him smile, and I hope I'll do that anyway with the things I have to say today. I think most of you here, and you are here, because you're passionate about housing, knowing that it plays a vital role in the quality of life for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities face very unique challenges related to housing, including accessibility, safety, the need for specialized residential services. But more importantly, finding inclusive housing is elusive. Housing that promotes independence, self-determination, prevents isolation, and fosters community integration. This matters. Living in inclusive housing allows people to cultivate meaningful relationships. It fosters a strong network among peers, neighbors, community members. It enhances someone's ability to participate in continuing education, employment, and social activities. Housing is a fundamental human right. But it also comes down to this, very simply. The ability to paint your wall purple if you want to get a cat, to hang a picture on the wall, not to hang up your pants after a long day, to go crazy with beloved collections, or to feel the comfort we all do after settling in for the night, knowing I'm home. For people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, when we don't get this right, It means institutional care. And none of that occurs in institutional settings. Washington State, like many states, lacks accessible and affordable housing options for people with IDD across counties, cities, and neighborhoods all around Washington. There are housing barriers mostly because people with IDD rely on SSI as a basic source of income. That leaves them rent burdened at $300 a month. They face discrimination and social stigma and insufficient support services. Having a reliable workforce to care for you and timely, easy, accessible transportation to get around the community is also crucial. To make this happen, we have to advocate for our government systems to invest in the development of housing projects that take into account the very specific needs of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including durable features and universal design principles. We have to encourage collaboration among stakeholders. We have developers and disability service organizations, local communities and government agencies all have to come together. We must also foster social inclusion, creating inclusive communities that value diversity and provide opportunities for social interaction. And accordingly, governments should adopt inclusive policies and legislation to ensure that people with IDD have equal opportunities to exercise their right to housing. I can stand here today quite confidently and say that Parkview Services is a leader in each of these critical areas. And Mark Cody stands out as a true advocate and leader in the field. I've known Mark Cody for many years, but I first worked most closely with him when I was at the ARC of King County. We were trying to house a very unique individual that many Facebook followers know as the unofficial mayor of Ballard. Our friend Joel has had many stories written about him, and he was facing eviction and homelessness in his senior years. His longtime residence was no longer a haven for his vast collections or his regular routines around Ballard, and he needed a very specialized solution. With some unique funding and creative strategies, Mark was able to design, build, and deliver a small unit fit for one in a familiar neighborhood with access to his routines and family and friends, with an overhang for outdoor smoking that wouldn't bother anybody, enough room for staff and his treasures. The funding structure that Mark created meant that our friend could live in the unit for the rest of his life, if he chose, with an emphasis on his choice and personal design. It was affordable and all his. It also taught me the term dadu, which, by the way, is an excellent song from Little Shop of Horrors, and it kind of makes me chuckle every time I say it. In recent years, I've been on Zoom with Mark in countless meetings, listening to him explain the barriers to IDD housing to legislators, the Department of Commerce, state advisory groups, to housing advocates, giving me legislative and policy language that nobody else could. At the heart of Mark's efforts lies his unwavering advocacy for the rights and well-being of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. By forging great partnerships, raising awareness, Mark has ensured that the broader network that builds inclusively and creates supportive environments where individuals with IDD are encouraged to thrive. Since assuming the role of executive director, Mark's visionary leadership has transformed Parkview Services into a benchmark program within the sector that creates not just a place to live, but a home where people are supported and empowered to live and reach their full potential, cultivating an environment where individuals can feel valued, respected, and fully included. As we look toward the future, there's no doubt that Mark Cody's visionary leadership will continue to transform the lives of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, ensuring they are afforded the dignity and independence they rightly deserve. So this wasn't a roast, just a toast to Mark Cody. Thank you all.
Thank you, Stacy, for your hard work, your knowledge, and your passion. And thanks again to Mark as well. Our next speaker is near and dear to the hearts of many at Parkview Services and offers an important perspective that should never be overlooked. As many of you know, Parkview Services has run Camp Parkview since 1997. And every year, over 60 adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities meet up on Vashon Island for a week of friendship, fun, and community. What we don't hear of as often is the impact that this week-long camp has on the families and communities of those campers. What does a week of respite mean for a family? What type of impact does camp have on the parent of an adult with IDDs? Well, Lisa Grove is the bonus mother of Chris, a wonderful young man who has, over the years, evolved into one of the energy sources that keeps Camp Parkview's heart pumping so strong. So without further ado, please meet Lisa Grove.
Whoa, that is a big step. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. Love being here today to support Parkview Services and talk a little bit about camp. I first met Chris when he was about 12. We got married, Bob and I got married, and Chris was about 13. At that point, he was nonverbal, had a tough time, was also a runner, which was frightening going into that household, needing to know where he is at all times. So he never got to experience things like going to camp, or we just, had tight control over him. And I never wanted him to get lost on my watch. I think it might have happened once or twice. But anyways, he just evolved over the years to a young man and was in a great ABA program that Zach was a part of back in the day. And now, about the time he was graduating from high school, we were looking for other alternatives to keep him active in the community. He loves being out and about. He gets tired of Bob and I. So we found Camp Parkview really because of Zach, I think. And it was a way for Chris to get to go to camp. He was an adult, he was, I think, 18 or 19 at the time. We were very nervous about it, right? And so we took him, and we kind of lingered, dropped him off, got him set up in his cabin. I don't know if you remember this, Zach, but he had to ask us to politely leave eventually. So Bob and I were lingering around, and there was about dinner time, and Zach finally you can go. No, really, you should go. And so we did, and we stayed at home next to the phone that whole entire week, waiting for a call to come get him or he's missing. We never got that call. So it was amazing. We went to pick him up on Friday afternoon. He was happy. He had met new friends. He's gone every year since then. He has lifelong friends because of the experience at Camp Parkview. He brought home art projects, and he loves to go now. So it was great that he got to go in person this year overnight for the first time since COVID, so that was wonderful. Now Bob and I feel pretty comfortable with him being gone. And the second year he went to camp, we took off to Oregon to go to Ashland and went to the Shakespeare Festival. So it's true that it provides respite, and we didn't have a lot of that, so it was and respite for Chris from us too. He probably gets tired of us as well, and every now and then you just need a break, and so that provided a lot for us as a family with our other kids too, and just to be able to have that time. And to allow Chris to meet so many wonderful people and give that sense of independence that he's not, he doesn't need to be with us 24/7. He's, a young man now, and we're just grateful to the camp. He loves it, and, thank you, Zach. And I think the camp also just provides so much opportunity for everybody that goes and the volunteers that go there. They get to, it's a beautiful spot on Vashon Island. They have a week of, togetherness. They have, like fashion shows and things like that. They had a spa day this year. Just wonderful experience for them. So I just wanted to thank Parkview Services for hosting it. Chris will keep coming. That's it. Thank you.
What an amazing and inspiring story. Thank you so much, Lisa. We are so grateful to be able to provide a space where our families can feel supported, campers can have fun, and our entire community can meet up with friends and truly thrive. Speaking of community, In 2022, we honored one of the Parkview founders with the Community Spirit Award. Stella Shivers, along with her husband Norm, started the Parkview Services group home on Capitol Hill. Parkview staff member Zach St. John went to the nursing home where Stella was living at the time. She was presented with the first ever Parkview Services Community Spirit Award. And that presentation has been preserved as an inspiring video. If any of you want to watch it on the Parkview website, I suggest you do that when you get home, not on your way home, when you get home. Today, I'm excited to bring up Parkview Services board member Bruce McClary and again, Executive Director Mark to present our second annual Parkview Services Community Spirit Award. Mark and Bruce, come on up.
Thank you, and thank you, Mark. Thank you, Emma. I wish I could bottle your energy. I really do. There's so much energy. Doesn't she bring a lot of energy to this? Okay, I didn't have that much. I think that's kind of dangerous, actually. Well, anyway, thanks to each of you for being here in support of Parkview Services. They do tremendous work, and there's such a positive impact that they have on people's lives. And I'd just like to take a moment to recognize each of you for being here and supporting Parkview. So give yourselves a hand. And also another thanks to the people who serve on the board with me. They're really dedicated people. This is a volunteer board, and they work very hard in support of the mission and vision of Parkview Services. So a hand to those who serve with me on the board. Today, it is my distinct honor to present the second annual Parkview Services Community Spirit Award to a man who's been working behind the scenes for some time. He's someone who's grown into a true champion for people with IDDs. State Representative Frank Chopp has, over the years, become an outstanding community ally based in Olympia, who has repeatedly gone above and beyond the call of duty on behalf of nonprofit housing organizations. He listens thoughtfully and carefully as we explain the challenges the community faces with housing, work, education, healthcare, and so many of the countless other invisible barriers that pop up without notice. He's worked incredibly hard to help us gain access to affordable community-based housing by sponsoring the REIT bill. How many of you know what the REIT bill is in here? Okay. For those of you who do not know, the REIT bill offers a perpetual source of housing funding for people with IDDs. And that funding is crucial as we work together to solve the housing crisis for adults with IDDs. It builds a future that ensures that housing is not a barrier to living within a community. And it offers a more secure future that helps people with IDDs realize their full potential free from isolation. Representative Chopp is an ally and an advocate in the truest sense of those words. So it's with immense gratitude that we present Representative Frank Chopp with the 2023 Parkview Services Community Spirit Award. Mark, Representative Chopp.
Want to come up? You make the step?
Yeah, hey, thanks so much.
There you go.
Somebody take a picture? Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
That's yours.
Wait, why don't you hang on to that? I don't want to drop it right off the bat. Well, thanks very much. Can you hear me in the back there? Thank you both for those kind words and all the work that you do over the years. We need to recognize the board again because I know how committed you have to be on a nonprofit board making things work. So let's hear for the board members again. I've got quite a bit to say, and so if I go too long, you can blame Zach for telling me to tell what's happening in Olympia and other places for housing for people who need it. There's a lot happening, And I'm so honored to be here with you, and not just for the award, but more importantly, for the work we're doing together, because that's what makes the difference. Parkview is a tremendous partner. You are highly regarded across the state, doing all this important work, housing for IDD folks, also one of the largest housing developers for that population. Also, just more recently, I found out all the housing counseling that you did. Denise Rodriguez, who's a friend of mine, actually has a relationship with Parkview for providing important housing counseling services, which is extremely important, as I'll explain in a little bit. Also, your advocacy is extremely important. I've seen Mark. Where did he go? Oh, there you are. I've seen Mark in so many Zoom meetings, it's ridiculous. I always know he's there because of his hat. And I could make some jokes about that, but I won't. But I would like to have, if you ever have a Parkview hat for sale, I'll buy a couple there. Because we all want to be more like Mark, basically. In fact, we could use more people like Mark in the legislature, for God's sake. We talk about hardworking and humble and all that. Jeez. I know this from direct experience. I was Speaker of the House for 21 years, and I'm so glad I'm not anymore. Because, now I'm focused on what I want to work on, which are housing and healthcare and education, things like that. But Parkview, including Mark, is part of our advocacy team, including Stacy, who's a wonderful leader, all these connections. I think Stacy knows half the state population by name and address, just in case we have to lobby them or whatever. But we have this team in Olympia, meets quite regularly, usually on Zoom, in fact, almost always on Zoom, because that's how we get people to show up. Includes Stacy from the Arc of Washington, also Representative Jamila Taylor from the Federal Way area. She's a tremendous partner in this. Her brother has IDD, and she comes at it from a very personal, lived experience, I guess you could say it, level. And of course, Mark as well. And the stuff we've made progress on, we couldn't have done it with that group. So let's hear it again for Mark and Stacy and others like that. So believe it or not, we actually are making progress, including this last legislative session, mainly because of your advocacy. If I say something, they think, oh, that's the legislator, and they don't listen as much, frankly. When you speak, people listen. It really makes a difference. And thanks in large part to your advocacy, we had a major increase in the dedicated funding out of the Housing Trust Fund for IDD housing. $25 million. That's 5 times more than we've ever had before. But we got to do a lot more, because who said 37,000 people still need help? We've got a lot of work to do. But we also got an overall increase of the Housing Trust Fund up to $400 million for a lot of populations that need help. And that was a tremendous thing. I remember when I helped start that thing many years ago. I don't want to tell you how many years ago it was, but we got our first $1 million into the Housing Trust Fund because of unclaimed lottery prizes. That was laying around. A legislator, actually Dan McDonald, do you remember him? He found it. And we were so desperate, all right, but then I couldn't believe that anybody would have unclaimed lottery prizes. I mean, why do you play the lottery if you don't want to claim something? Anyway, we took it, and then we went from there. Well, not physically took it, but you know what I mean. And so the thing is that budget allocations and laws are one thing, but it doesn't mean anything unless things get done because of that. That's why Parkview is so critical. And one of the things that distresses me the most is the media coverage about things related to housing and homelessness, things like that, is so unrelentingly negative. And they don't tell the good stuff that's going on, or the success stories. But there is amazing progress being made. 3 examples. If I go too long, Zach, just throw something, not the ketchup, I like ketchup, but throw something else at me. So the first example is what I've called home and hope, because we see all this high priority need for affordable housing. I mean, it's so much has changed in the last 10 years. It's much more difficult to get an affordable home. And so we started this, and we came up with the concept of, the public and nonprofits own a lot of land. So why don't we grab some of that land and sites and reconvert it or repurpose it for affordable housing, other community services like childcare, early learning, health clinics, things like that. So in King County, over the last 5 years, we've acquired over 30 major sites for 7,000 new homes. Now, that's just the start of this, because if you look at all the available things, how many of you gone by a North Seattle College in North Seattle? You probably have, going down 3. You see that massive parking lot, which is across I-5 from the light rail station? We want all that housing above the parking. If they need parking, fine. We want housing on top of it. They take a short walk to the light rail station. That's just one example. Another example is that we have to make the connection between health and housing. So we passed a law, and we sort of pushed certain counties to adopt it. And so in King County, they implemented it, and they've acquired hotels and other buildings for 1,600 new units. That's primarily for the homeless, but it's very tangible. Let's just go out and buy it, get people off the street and out of the parks. All this nonsense about arguing about sweeping the homeless is counterproductive. Let's just find the housing, move them in that. Then everybody benefits, including the businesses that have to deal with the homeless situation, things like that. Another one, which I really want you to pay attention to, Mark, in two of our sites have a set-aside for IDD housing. So at Angle Lake, south of the airport, there's a new light rail station there. It's the end of the line currently. Well, Mercy Housing, working with the King County ARC, has 30 homes there that are dedicated for IDD folks. And that's out of about 100, I think it's about 150 total units. And it's great to be partners with Mercy Housing. They were started by a bunch of nuns. They laugh when I say that, but I sort of enjoy saying a bunch of nuns. But they have far more credibility than a bunch of legislators. So I talk about the nuns a lot. At any rate, not sure what religion you are, but hey, we have real partners with them. And then at the Kent Des Moines station, just up back this way, right across from the Highline Community College, Open Doors, which is another nonprofit focused in on housing and services for people with IDD. They're partnering again with Mercy Housing, and they've got that site. There'll be 200 units of new housing there with a set aside of about 40 homes for people with IDD. And services. Just having an isolated apartment ain't enough. You know that. And so we need to have the homes and then also the service facilities there, whether it's respite care or whether it's counseling or whatever. So those are tangible examples. They're under construction right now in terms of Angle Lake in a couple of months. And there's going to be a wave of these things across King County and also I think in Snohomish County, although I don't know as much there. So we're counting on Mark and all of you to help develop those sites. Second example, Apple Health and Homes. I came up with that name, Apple Health, years ago because the federal term for it is SCHIP, State Children's Health Insurance Program. I like Apple Health better because it's state. It's also, keep the doctor away, right? You have an apple a day, you keep the doctor away. It's all positive rather than a bureaucratic name. So we built on that Apple Health care for low-income people to also add homes to the health care. And so, I don't know if you know this, but about 70% of people who are chronically homeless have major medical conditions, mental illness, substance use disorder, major physical disability. I'm sure you've seen them. They're all over. And so, last year we enacted House Bill 1866, creating Apple Health and Homes. It's based on a very, very simple premise. If you are homeless and have a serious medical condition, then you shall have a home as part of your medical treatment. I can't find anybody who disagrees with that, because otherwise, if you get services in the hospital and then are discharged to the street, that doesn't solve anything. The healthcare goes down and will cause a lot of other problems. So it's essentially a prescription for a home. And so we're making progress across the nation with this simple concept, linking healthcare with homes. And so, more importantly, we allocated $160 million in the state capital budget to start building these homes, and we got the federal government, believe it or not, to start matching with federal dollars the money that state puts in for housing, which should be a beacon of light for people wanting to change their dynamic. Nobody is satisfied currently with the housing situation for the homeless. Even though there's a lot of great work being done, press ignores that. This is fundamental, because if you have a revenue stream tied to something that's very simple and understandable, you can go forward. And frankly, I don't know about you, but I feel it's an absolute scandal that we live in a state of Washington or in a country that has people suffering and dying on the street. We can do better than that. A third example, Covenant Home Ownership Account. Now, when I started this, I had no idea you guys do housing counseling and home ownership. I was like, what the heck? I said other words as well, but you get my point. Is I'm so pleased with the breadth of services you provide at Parkview. The reality in Washington State is that we have a terrible history of racist real estate covenants. We actually did research, and we found over 50,000 real estate covenants. When you buy a home, you have a covenant, you have a deed of trust and all that. We found so far over 50,000 that have these statements that says literally things like, only white people can live at this place. Only white people. I mean, it's unbelievable when you actually read the language. It's totally nonsensical. But not only the state of Washington recorded those documents, the state of Washington in the 1960s went to the state Supreme Court and defended those practices. I could show you the documents. It's like, what? Well, of course, then the federal government outlawed all that in 1968, but the effects of that have gone on with the change or the difference in generational wealth between some people and other people. And I could go into detail about this, but the main thing is that if you want to do something in life, you not only have to have an idea, you have to have money. So guess what? We put a $100 fee on real estate transaction. It's generating $100 million a year. So over a generation, it's $2 billion. That will make a difference. And so we passed that bill earlier this year because we had a massive coalition, including, by the way, the Realtors Association. Talk about unlikely coalition members. I mean, we were asking for help from everybody, and everybody said, we ought to do something about it. But I need you to think about the future. This will take care of some folks who have been harmed. But what about the rest of us? Why is it that interest rates on 30-year mortgages are over 8%? Remember the American dream? Supposed to be part of that was to own your own home. So I think we had to develop a proposal and saying that there ought to be a government guarantee for 1% mortgage interest for first-time homebuyers, for everybody, not just people that were harmed. Thank you for sort of applauding. Yeah. So think about that. We are leading the nation in each of these three areas. I'm not kidding you. If you go to other states, they're not doing this stuff. They're doing some things here, some good things there, but nothing like what we're doing for part of leadership. But part of the secret of getting things done is not having people fight you. And so we've done a lot of this stuff under the radar, quietly getting these things done, but literally we're leading the nation. So we're making great progress. And I really appreciate your support because we need you to actually turn ideas into reality. Without you on your advocacy and your hard work to actually build things or buy things and turn them into good things, we don't get anything done. So You need to keep being inspired by our fellow human beings that are here. And notice that having a home is such a fundamental human right. I mean, it's so obvious. And so we have a situation where we have that ethic of having a home is a fundamental right. Also, there's no question that the housing issues are a clear need and a top priority of the people around the state. They want us to do more in this regard. And so, in closing, sorry, Mark, I went a little bit too long, or Zach, sorry, I went a little bit too long there, but keep this in mind. Our cause is just. We have momentum. Let's keep moving forward together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your dedication. Let's hear it one more time for Frank Chopp. Well, if you think I have energy, wait until you meet our next speaker. I had the delight meeting Maurice earlier this morning, and I found out that he is a mountain biker. He is a cross-country snowboarder, which I didn't even know was a thing. Arts and crafts, so active. So Maurice is a newer member of the Parkview community, but has jumped in head first. In 2022, Maurice and his family had a choice to make. The founders of the organization where Maurice received services were preparing to retire. The family met with a few organizations to see who would be a good fit. And after much deliberation, they chose Parkview Services. Shortly thereafter, Parkview took over the Vibrant Palette Arts Center program, a six-year-old nonprofit organization that continues to provide art sessions for Seattle adults with IDDs. Maurice quickly jumped into both the Vibrant Palette Art Program and Camp Parkview. On top of all that, Maurice brought his friend Scotty to camp as well. I hope we get to hear a little bit more about Scotty when you come on up. We are so excited to have Maurice join our Parkview Services community, and we would love to give him a warm welcome up to the stage so he can talk about his time so far at Parkview. Come on up, Maurice.
Good morning. My name's Maurice Godfrey. I am one of the people Parkview helps in supportive living. I am a member of the Ski Hawks racing team and have participated in the Special Olympics for many years. I am honored to be here today to tell you about my experience with Parkview Services this year. Let me tell you how I came to be with Parkview. For the last 10 years, a company called Stand Together was my supportive living company. And they helped me live independently. Scott Allen and Christine Santangelo were the directors in charge of the company, and they did a fabulous job. But when they were thinking of retiring and closing the company, they wanted to help us find another supportive living company that had similar values and treated their clients well. They recommended Parkview. Here is what my family and I were looking for in the new agency. We wanted a company that was like Stand Together, one that would put their clients first, treat them with respect, and help them live independently as much as possible. When we interviewed Mark at Parkview Services, we were pleased with what Mark had to say. Mark told us they would keep things the way Stand Together had them set up, because I was comfortable with that and didn't want it to change. So we decided to go with Parkview and transition in January of this year. For example, I participated in Vibrant Palette art classes. We heard about it from Zach. Thank you, Zach. and I decided to try it for a month or so, and now I don't want to stop. I love attending classes at Vibrant Palette. The staff there give me advice. They help to bring out good ideas I didn't know I had in me. Every Wednesday, I get to spend time with working on painting and participating with other people and learning how to be better artists. After only a couple months, Vibrant Palette had an art show at a cafe. Believe it or not, they chose one of my paintings to be in the art show. My sister took me to the art show. Thank you, Maggie. The day it opened, and I walked in and I looked at all the paintings on the walls. Then I saw my painting in a beautiful white frame hanging on the red wall so everyone could see it. When I looked at it, I was blown away. I was so happy and honored that they thought my painting was worthy of display. It made my day. Another exciting experience this summer was getting to attend Camp Parkview. We got to spend 5 days and 5 nights on Vashon Island. My friend Scotty and I shared a cabin with other campers and 3 Camp Parkview staff. It was a comfortable cabin with a bathroom, a shower, and the weather was beautiful. The food was delicious. They even had the coffee pot left on all day. Everything was well planned out. We got the chance to go boating, swimming, do arts and crafts, and be in a talent show. It got me away from home for a week and gave me a chance to be with other participants having a good time. It was a wonderful learning experience. I cannot wait to go back next year. After almost a year being with Camp Parkview, I can tell you Scott and Christine were right. Parkview is a good company. Staff seem laid back and nice. Everyone I have met seems to like working here. All the participants I met seem to like being with Parkview. I appreciate that Parkview and I met, just give me a second. I appreciate that Parkview supports me in participating and being active in my community. I enjoy my life, and I am looking forward to continuing with Parkview support for many years. In conclusion, thank you for coming today. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for helping Parkview support me and people like me. And please join me in a round of applause for the staff, Parkview staff, and everyone who made today's luncheon possible. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Maurice. Maybe next year we'll MC it together. What do you say about that? You are an inspiration, and we are so glad and fortunate to have you be a part of the Parkview family. So thanks again, Maurice. Yes, good. We are pleased as well. As we heard earlier this morning, there is estimated to be 37,000 adults with IDDs living in Washington State, and they are also experiencing unmet housing needs. The need is massive. And Parkview Services is leading the charge in finding creative solutions to offering community-based housing, engagement, and support services all over Washington, and now on both sides of the mountains. Parkview is growing to meet demand while also managing programming that would otherwise disappear. Parkview wants to ensure that Washington State adults with IDDs don't lose services, while also improving their overall quality of life. And Parkview cannot do any of this without your generosity and financial support. So now is the time of our program, as we come to a conclusion, that I ask you to open your hearts and make a joyful gift to Parkview Services. We hope you'll pull out your wallets, your credit cards, or your phone, now that we're in 2023. There are 3 ways to give today. You have an envelope with a giving slip on your table if you are old school and want to write a check. I had to ask Zach what a check is, and he let me know what it is. So you can write one of those. We are so grateful for your gifts. There is also a QR code on your table tent there that you can scan with your phone. We have Vanna White over here showing off the QR code. Thank you so much. Scan that with your phone. You can pay that way. And also, if you want to pay with a credit card, a physical credit card, we have up at the front the registration and checkout desk can do that for you. But before you fill out the amount, I want you to give from your heart, give a joyful gift. I want to remind you of one important thing. Parkview is at a critical moment of incredible growth. Peek at our annual report to the community and see what Mark wrote about the work that was laid out 5 years ago and how Parkview is uniquely poised in 2023 and 2024 for incredible growth. You heard him say earlier today about Parkview's staff almost doubling in size and how the programs and funding opportunities are also growing. But the reality is that most of the public funds that Parkview receives are restricted, specifically to the building of affordable housing. But the reality is that they don't cover Parkview's operational or staff costs. And as we all know, especially from the stories and speeches today, it is people power, compassion, love, dedication of our hardworking staff here at Parkview Services, at the camp, at Vibrant Arts Palette, networking, creative thinking, and that's what has taken Parkview this far. These donations that you're making today will go to the general fund that directly supports staff and operational expenses. Quite simply, your generosity today directly supports Parkview's staff in accomplishing our mission moving forward. We are requesting a suggested donation of $150 per person today. If everybody in this room was able to give that amount, we would hit our goal and we would be so pleased, as Maurice would say. We encourage you to go a little bit higher. If you're able to give double that, or $500, or $50,000, we won't say no. So raise your hand if you want to give $50,000 this morning. You can write a check for that. I'm not sure your credit card company would let you run that through, though, so maybe use that envelope on the table. Parkview staff knows where those monies could make an impact. So please be generous today. Pull out those credit cards, use the QR with your phone, or go ahead and write a check. Write a check and put it in the envelope. And I ask to increase the energy and enthusiasm. If you've already filled out an envelope today, and once you're done with your envelope, go ahead and wave it in the air so we can recognize you, and we'll have one of our beloved staff members come by and pick it up. Don't be shy. Wave that envelope. I see a few over there. And we'll have our wonderful staff come and collect those from you. So we don't want to leave anything on the table unless it's a gift, but we are just so excited you're here. We are so pleased that you could join us. What a marvelous event. So look around and see these people that are supporting a happy life for people in Washington with IDDs. Let's have a huge round of applause. And finally, it would be a shame not to recognize our incredible sponsors today that made this event possible. Of course, to the Sisters Restaurant for their delicious breakfast, their beautiful environment. We are eternally grateful to our platinum sponsor, WSECU, our silver sponsor, Banner Bank, K&L Gates, Umpqua Bank, our bronze level sponsor, the Partners Group, and June Liu of Churchill Mortgage. Some of you might be here today. Thank you. So again, the fundraiser is here and now in this very moment. Open your heart, get out those checkbooks, and make a real difference in the lives of people living with IDDs in Washington State. And remember, go ahead and wave that envelope if you're finished with it, and we'll have someone come pick it up. Again, thank you for being here. My name's Emma J., and it was an honor to be your MC today. Enjoy some socialization, camaraderie, get a cup of coffee. Thanks again.